Hi, my name is Reese.
And my name is Taryn, and this is Talking CAR.
We are members of the Jason Russell Society in Massachusetts. If you haven't heard of us yet, well, you have now.
In this monthly podcast, we are going to be talking all things CAR. Now let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the 5th episode of our podcast, Talking CAR.
In this episode, we're going to be talking all about the National Project.
The first half being about when we went to Fairy Farm and our experience, what we thought of it, just the overall goods. And then the second half, we got a little surprise.
Okay, so we're going to go over a brief history of the property. So you may be wondering why it's called Fairy Farm. It has nothing to do with George Washington or anything, so you might be confused. But it was called Fairy Farm because the ferry that traveled across the Rappahannock River, which is lining the property, dropped off people at the dock on the edge of their property, and people would walk through their property,
causing the property to have a lot of traffic from all the people there.
Yeah. The property itself dates back to the American Indians. They found artifacts on there from the American Indians, the Revolutionary War during George Washington's time, and even from the Civil War. So that was pretty cool.
Later, George Washington's family ended up buying the house in 1738 when George was roughly 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah. And this property is where a lot of the stories of George Washington at a young age, they were set here. Like the story that almost everyone knows, the cherry tree story. The story basically is George Washington supposedly cut down a cherry tree with an axe, and he was approached by his father about it, and he said that I cannot tell a lie and confess to it. But this is a made-up story to symbolize George Washington's honesty.
Also at this site was the story of the silver dollar toss, which is the story of when George Washington threw a silver dollar across the Rappahannock River. The river back then was very, very, very large, larger than it is today. Even today, it's massive.
It's huge.
Yeah. And I can't imagine it even bigger. And throwing a rock across it because it seems physically impossible.
A silver coin.
My bad. Well, anyway, every year around George Washington's birthday, the people around the site will come and they'll throw coins across the river. Well, try and throw coins across the river because it's huge.
And yeah, so they'll try to recreate it, and I feel like they always do it around Washington's birthday, so it's kind of a commemoration. And so George Washington moved out of the house at age 18 and went into surveying and ultimately ended up at Mount Vernon. So now we're going to tell a little bit about the property and how it's being renovated today.
The history of the property, as some would say.
So the property was declared a historic landmark in the year 2000, and in 2002, they started digging for artifacts.
In 2008, the George Washington Foundation took control over the property. Also in 2008, they found the foundation of the George Washington home.
So instead of building onto the foundation of the house, they built a concrete platform above the foundation and built on top of that so they could still keep digging where the foundation is today.
Finding some of the artifacts that we got to see in the museum.
So they built the house just like it would be in the time frame that it was built in.
They used all the same techniques, materials, anything they could to make it the same.
Yeah, they used the same way that they did the doors, bending in the nails if they were too long, and it looked really cool in the house to see that. And as well as the house being a reproduction itself, every single thing in the house is a reproduction, and it's so cool because it's so interactive. They tried to make it interactive.
Yeah, it's like an interactive museum where you can touch anything, sit on it,
lay in the beds.
You could read through the letters, play poker with the cards.
It's actually really fun there. And so now we're gonna go a little bit into our little tour that we had in the house. Like, we were at the October National Board meeting, and we had the privilege to go on a tour of the house. And now, we're gonna tell you about it. So, our tour started in the adult bedroom downstairs.
This is where George's parents would have slept, and where there was actually a tea set where Mary and her friends could have some tea, gossip, do all the mom things.
And in this room, I gotta say, the bed in this room is luxurious.
Oh, it was so comfortable.
And I'm pretty sure she said it was the most expensive piece of furniture in the house.
Oh, yeah. Because it wasn't like any of the other beds. It was like, it had a layer of like feathers.
It was amazing.
Amazing.
And then we moved on to the next room, which was the dining room, which was
that was
grand.
So cool. There was a huge table.
Array of like
Foods.
fake food.
Well, not real food, of course. And there were chairs along the outside. There was a huge standing desk.
Yeah, and this is where we more touched like the letters that they had. I think they had a copy of the father's will and another letter. I'm not sure what it was, but you could like hold them and read them. And like the standing desk had all this stuff in it.
It's huge as well.
Cool. And you could like touch anything. You can sit in all the chairs. It's
hands on.
Yeah. And then we moved into the hallway, which it's kind of cool because the breeze that came in from the river, the hallway kind of had two doors on either side, and they would
open the door to the back near the river.
Yeah.
And so in the summer, they could let in all the cool air instead of like your nowadays air conditioning.
Like DIY air conditioning.
DIY.
They're so advanced.
Advanced for their time.
Yeah. And then we went upstairs into the children's bedroom.
/ the guest bedrooms.
Yeah. But the children didn't usually sleep. Like, they kind of moved around
all the time.
Depending on the weather. They'd sleep upstairs sometimes. They'd sleep in the hallway if it was too warm.
And if they had guests, the guests would actually sleep upstairs in the rooms, and the kids would literally just find anywhere to sleep.
Yeah. So, kind of universal.
Yeah.
And then the next room we went into was downstairs, and this was the grand room. This is the best room.
The room with the most important
thing.
Desk.
It was the
piece of furniture in this house
Taryn,
to the
stop.
National Project.
Taryn, stop. And then we moved on to, we saw this furniture. It was the replica Washington family desk in the parlor, and it is on site, and you can actually use it, and you could
go through the desk.
Yes.
Pretend you were writing a little letter.
It was super cool. And this is what the National Project is raising money for, and this is supposedly
the George Washington desk.
Yeah, we already covered that. But this is supposedly where George Washington wrote the 110 rules of civility and decent behavior that he strived to live by. And it was kind of empowering to be like sort of like in a reproduction of where he would do stuff. And in that room also they had a little poker table where you could play with the cards. They passed around like wig curlers. I think they found over 200 wig curlers.
Oh my god,
on the
there
property.
were so many wig curlers. There was also a couch in that room. It was so comfortable. But that couch was left in the hallway.
Usually, yeah.
Usually when the Washingtons lived there. But since there wasn't that much room, and since they were going to be doing tours, they actually put it in this room just for like a little safekeeping.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to mention, in the hallway, there's like this little peek hole where you can actually look at the physical foundation of the house, like the Washington family house. You can actually see it. It's so cool.
It was Amazing.
And then we headed outside.
Outside, there was all the excavation sites that they're working on. Currently. I think we saw at least 2.
Yeah.
But there's more. And every summer, they actually go out and they do as much as they can because they, stop in the other seasons because it gets too cold,
Yeah, and they're giving tours during, the fall and spring and winter seasons. Yeah, and they, redo the house, to get more factual stuff. And then over summer, they dig, and it's always super cool. So we hope you enjoyed our little mini tour. And,
on to the commercial! Did you know that the National Society Children of the American Revolution has a big anniversary coming up? NSCAR will be celebrating its 125th anniversary on April 5th, 2020. What better way to celebrate than to buy a pin? Available for a limited time, the 125th anniversary pin is a gold eagle with a red banner and a blue shield. Get yours for just $125 at your regional meeting. Proceeds go to fund the 125th anniversary celebrations. Don't be without one. Get yours now. We hope you enjoyed the commercial.
So now on to our little surprise we know you all been waiting for. So when we were at October Board, we actually got to steal a little bit of National President Mackie Storage's time to do an interview with us. So we hope you enjoy it.
We have a special guest with us today, National President Mackie Storage. Welcome, Mackie.
Hello, how are you guys? I'm glad to be here.
We are here at the historic Ferry Farm, George Washington's boyhood home and central locations of the Foundations of Freedom. So, Mackie, tell us about yourself.
So, I am a junior at the College of William and Mary. I am studying history and government. And I've been in CAR since I was 3 months old. So, I've been in it for a while.
So, first question, tell us about your project and what does it mean to you?
So, the National Project is Ferry Farm, George Washington's boyhood home, and I grew up a mile away from here, less than a mile. I had to pass this place every single day, going to school, coming home from school, all of this. So it's been a big part of my identity, and seeing it every day is was a staple of my life for 18 years. And so I missed that when I went to school in Williamsburg. And so I thought it would be a great idea if we could try to find a project to do here for CAR.
Okay. So, out of all the things that they have to offer here at Ferry Farm, why was the boyhood desk one of your main priorities?
Because I always really like the fact that this is where George Washington's grew up, and the foundations it's a pun of his leadership were laid here, and this is where his formative years happened, and where all pretty much his main values and moral upbringing happened. And I thought it was important to think about a lot of what he learned was very self-taught and taught by his mom and other educated people around him, and it all happened here. And so I thought it was very important because the desk, obviously he's known for the rules of civility and decent behavior, and it was probably written there. So that's super cool to think that we're funding the furniture that he eventually hurdled him into being a great man. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Complex ideas.
So, for you, how is being national president this far?
It's been great. Regional tour was exhausting. I slept for a week after I came home, so that was pretty fun. But yeah, no.
I can imagine it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mackie.
Thank you.
We had a great time, and thanks for telling us a little bit about yourself and your project.
Thank you for allowing me to be here and talk about the National Project.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed the interview. And before we go, we just want to thank Mackie one last time for recording with us. It was so much fun, and it really meant a lot. Thanks for listening. Bye.
That's our podcast for this month. You can find our podcast on Buzzsprout, Spotify, and iTunes. Be sure to tune in again next month.